So how prejudiced are you? You might be looking at me going, what kind of a video is this? But I want to know, what kind of stereotypes do you have out there if you're white, about blacks, about Hispanics, Latinos? On our XM radio show recently, we opened up the phone lines, and it was amazing the response we got. And I'm going to share some of the responses because I think it's so crucial. You know, when we think about prejudice, we think about our fear of being around, our not trusting other races. If you're black, maybe you don't trust whites. If you're Hispanic, maybe you don't trust Asians. If you're whatever, you know, we just don't trust, right? And that lack of trust ends up hurting us in so many different ways. To be on edge, that emotional edge of judging others before we know them, is something that, of course, tears down relationships, but it also puts an unbelievable internal stress on us, being on edge at all time. That whole fight or flight syndrome. So on our radio show, David Essel Live, which is every Saturday, 6 to 9 Eastern, 3 to 6 Pacific. It's XM channel 168, but it also streams for free if you don't have XM at our website, talkdavid.com. I asked that question. Have you changed in the last 15 years? Are you the same as you were back then? Let me tell you some of the responses, some of the most profound responses. We had one guy call up and he said, you know, I'm a former cop. And he said, when I was a cop on the beat, I used to harass blacks, Latinos, anyone that wasn't white. As a matter of fact, he said, I had this incredible prejudice against them. Until I retired and I came out of the closet as a gay man. When I came out of the closet as a gay man, I saw what I had done to others. I was harassed. I was made fun of. And he said, David, since that day, I've seen the errors in my way before, and I've opened my heart and soul to blacks, Latinos, Asians, to everyone, knowing that I have no place in this world to be of judgment. Isn't that interesting? Then we had a black guy call in who said, you know, it is because of my Christian faith. I know that if I'm going to walk as a Christian, I must love people who even don't love me, which was so incredibly profound to hear, right? And he said, if people judge me, I still know on my path that I must not judge them, but I must love them regardless of how they treat me. I was like blown away. This is incredible. Incredible news. Another guy called up and said that he was raised in a bigoted household. And for his 18 years living at home, everything was anti-ethnicities that weren't white. It was anti. Until he found God. And he said in the process of finding God, all of a sudden I look back and I see that the way I was raised was so atrociously wrong. And he said, now I go out of my way to welcome all people, races, creeds, religions, etc. into my house. And the last one I'm going to tell you about is another person that called up that said a lunch changed his mind, that he was highly bigoted against Latinos. Until one day a friend of his invited him to lunch, and sitting at the table with lunch was a friend of this person's who was Latino. And he said, at that day, everything shifted. How about you? Do you want to have a life that's more loving? If you're Christian or Buddhist or Hindu or whatever you are, all religions, Islamic, all religions say the same thing. To be accepting of those who are not like us. So if you claim a religion or if you claim a spiritual path, we're all being asked the same thing. To throw the beliefs of our forefathers behind us out the window for good. To look and to accept people as they are today. And let me tell you this, when someone asked me on the show, how the heck do you do this? How do you get past that bigotry? How do you get past that stereotype? And I said the same thing to him I'm going to tell you right now. The only way to do it is via eye contact. If you can look directly into the eyes of the person whose skin is different than yours, if you're white, the person who's black, who's Asian, who's Latino, if you can look past their skin directly as quickly as possible into the eyes, it starts to create a relationship of oneness. Try it. And don't forget to tune into the radio show every Saturday, 6 to 9. Information is at talkdavid.com. Let's all work in this together.